Happy New Year. It is January the 1st, 2025. I thought I would make this video to introduce you to a text, a spiritual text that has been a guiding light, a guiding source of wisdom for many, many years. It's 2025. I was first introduced to the book. I first discovered the book in, let's see, 2008, and then started actively working through the book in 2009. And so I wanted to tell you a little bit of how I ended up being introduced to the book, how I ended up working with the book, and I thought I would also share with you how to get started with the book. So I'm not sure how long this video is going to be. I hope it's not too long, but we have some things that I wanted to get through to lay the foundations. And so the work that I'm talking about that will be in the title of this video is A Course in Miracles. So I first came across the book when I was taking a workshop at Omega, the Omega Institute. It was in the bookstore there, and I picked it up, I flicked through it. I was intrigued by it, but at the same time intimidated by it, and so I didn't buy it. Then, not too long later, I had a quantum healing hypnosis session with a woman who had been referred to me by another woman that I knew. And it was one of those sessions that took some navigating. She kept on needing to go to the bathroom, and so we kept taking breaks in the induction process, going to the bathroom, coming back. But eventually she entered into a life. She saw a life as a man who was very much in love with his wife, very connected to his family. And when we entered into the scene, he was being diagnosed with a terminal condition. And so the first entry point into this life was how he was navigating that. And he made a decision not to share the diagnosis with his wife. And then, if you're familiar now with the quantum healing hypnosis method, we move to important days, and then eventually we move to the last day. And so, as we move to the important day, the next important day, it did happen to be the last day. And on the last day, it was he, my client was a she, but in the life as a he was attending a wedding of a family member, and he went to get up to go and get a refreshment. And then he turned back and saw that at his table there was commotion. And then when he looked closely, he saw that it was him, that the body had died. So he was already on the other side of it. And again, if you're familiar with the quantum healing hypnosis work, it's when we have moved through the last day of the life that we then start to ask specific questions that the individual has pertaining to their life that then has some kind of connection or thematic relationship with the life that we were just looking at and seeing. And so as we're working through the questions, we got to the end of the questions, and then her infinite wisdom, the part of the consciousness through which we're receiving the answers to these questions, said to me through this woman that I needed to look at a particular lesson from this material called A Course in Miracles. And again, I was familiar with the title, but I hadn't read it, I hadn't looked into it. So after that session, I went and purchased the book. And then the second direction that came through, so the first direction was that I needed to look at a particular lesson. It was I can't remember honestly off the top of my head. It was lesson 57 or 75, something like that. And that the next instruction was that she and I, this woman who I didn't know, she was a referral from another woman I knew, as I said, that she and I should study it together. And so we made a plan for that next Friday that we would get together and start studying A Course in Miracles together. And she was very enthusiastic about this project. And so she went ahead and got background information about it. And she also invited some other friends to join in this group. And we did this book club, which was predominantly Fridays, um, for about 5 years. And we did move away from the Course in Miracles after a couple of years, but at the very beginning we were very focused. And so what I thought I would do is share a way to, an approach to the Course in Miracles. Yeah, so for my part, it was part of my meditation practice. The book is divided up into sections. And so there's what is called the text. I'm just going to bring up, I wonder if it's helpful for me to share the screen maybe. So this is the website, acourseinmiracles.org, that you can go to. The book itself is quite thick. The paper is very thin, like an anthology or even like a Bible. The print is fairly small. It's been edited to include numbers, so it's a very organized work. And so the foundation was created after the work. So let me just show you the anatomy of the book, and then I'll talk a little bit more about its history. It does come with some controversy. So I'm just going to click on entire ACIM, A Course in Miracles web edition. And here you see how the book is organized. So there's the preface, the text, which is something that you study and contemplate, the workbook, which is a lesson, a series of lessons for every day of the year. There are 365 lessons. There are reviews within that, so you have an opportunity to review some lessons, and then also some lessons get repeated. For example, at the end of the year, the last 5 days of the year, you're simply repeating one lesson for those 5 days. And so because it's the first day of the year, I thought that I would introduce the Course in Miracles with you so that you can start with the first lesson and start working your way through. So the next part of the text is a manual for teachers. Then there's a section on psychotherapy, and then a song of prayer. And so the reason why the book is so controversial is that it is a channeled work by a woman called Helen Schucman. And she was a tenured associate professor at Columbia Presbyterian Medical School. And so this is Helen Schucman here. And this is her colleague, Dr. William Thetford. And they had a conflicting relationship. And they were required to have regular meetings with one another, and it was becoming very stressful working together. But, when you're a tenured professor at somewhere like Columbia, then you need to figure it out, because being tenured like that it's like being married. It's a commitment. And so out of mutual frustration, the story goes that Dr. Thetford had just exclaimed, there has to be another way. And this occurred in 1965, late 1965, in October of 1965, or during that year, leading up to what she calls hearing the voice. She had some prophetic dreams. And she says that it was after these prophetic experiences and dreams that she heard this silent voice in her head. And the voice started by saying, "This is A Course in Miracles. Please take notes." And it turned out that she happened to be a very gifted shorthand writer. And so she started reluctantly taking notes. It's also said she didn't read what she wrote, and she didn't live what she wrote, but they did receive a miracle and they became very good friends. when she shared with Dr. Thetford about what was happening to her, the phenomena that was being brought through her, the wisdom that was being brought through her, he was intrigued. And so then it became a project that he started working on together with another fellow called Ken Wapnick. So there isn't a picture of Ken Wapnick, but anyway, so the page that I'm on here is at acim.org, and I'm under the scribing section. Now, I'm familiar with the phenomena of being able to hear wisdom through your own consciousness and then take notes. I'm familiar with this through automatic writing, where it's a skill. It's a skill that can be cultivated. It's a skill that can be practiced and strengthened. However, from the fundamentalist Christian perspective, the act of scribing is viewed as channeling and is considered ungodly. However, I did a deep exploration into the phenomena in Sunday service number 8 and 9, numbers 8 and 9, and I have found that actually it is a gift of our nature that is natural and normal for us, and in fact should be strengthened rather than shut down. So that's my view. Do with that what you will. But so let me now go into the beginning of it. Um, Now, because the whole work was compiled, was dictated or scribed over several years, altogether 10 years, starting in 1965, it went through cycles of years, right? And so in the text, there's reference to Christmas, there's reference to the New Year, and there's reference to Easter. So I'm going to present this in my way. So in chapter 16 of the text, there's reference to the new year. So I'm going to start here. In chapter 15, in the Holy Instant, there's reference to Christmas. Christmas is the end of sacrifice. And so, for our part, this is just where we're going to start today. If this is uncomfortable for you, if you really just want to start at chapter 1, I'll go back to chapter 1. We'll have a quick look at parts of that. But if you want to go in order, that's perfectly fine. You might find the way the language is used a little bit confronting. It has its own jargon, it has its own language that you get to learn and know. At first glance, though, I think you just need to give it a pass over and just see how it sits and how it lands. A lot of the text is written in Shakespearean pentameter, which is a sophisticated way of expression. And so, in and of itself, that's quite miraculous. All right, so for our part, we are going to the power of holiness. So let us begin with this. I'm just going to read it through with you. The power of holiness. You may still think that holiness is impossible to understand because you cannot see how it can be extended to include everyone. And you've been told that it must include everyone to be holy. Concern yourself not with the extension of holiness, for the nature of miracles you do not understand, nor do you do them. It is their extension, far beyond the limits you perceive, that demonstrates you do not do them. Why should you worry how the miracles extend to all the sonship when you do not understand the miracle itself? One attribute is no more difficult to understand than is the whole. If miracles are at all, their attributes would have to be miraculous being part of them. Okay, so what might be helpful in this paragraph is to offer a synonym for sonship and instead use the word humanity. So why should you worry how the miracle extends to all humanity when you do not understand the miracle itself? So we're jumping right in here because we're quite deep in the text in chapter 16, but this is how I opted to do it for this year. Okay, so paragraph 2. There is a tendency to fragment and then to be concerned about the truth of just a little part of the whole. And this is but a way of avoiding or looking away from the whole to what you think you might be better able to understand. For this is but another way in which you would still try to keep understanding to yourself. A better and far more helpful way to think of miracles is this: you do not understand them either in part or in whole, yet they have been done through you. Therefore, your understanding cannot be necessary. Yet it is still impossible to accomplish what you do not understand. And so there must be something in you that does understand. And so what this is pointing to is that you are an instrument of miracles, that you can be used for miracles to move through you. Paragraph 3. To you, the miracle cannot seem natural because what you have done to hurt your mind has made it so unnatural that it does not remember what is natural to it. And when you're told what is natural, you cannot understand it. The recognition of the part as whole and of the whole in every part is perfectly natural, for it is the way God thinks. And what is natural to him is natural to you. Wholly natural perception would show you instantly that order of difficulty in miracles is quite impossible, for it involves a contradiction of what miracles mean. And if you could understand their meaning, their attributes could hardly cause you perplexity. And so we'll go over what miracles are, at least introduce you to what miracles are. Paragraph 4. You have done miracles, but it's quite apparent that you have not done them alone. You have succeeded whenever you have reached another mind and joined with it. When two minds join as one and share one idea equally, the first link in the awareness of the sonship of humanity as one has been made. When you have made this joining as the Holy Spirit bids you, and have offered it to him, to God, to Jesus, to the Holy Spirit, to use as he sees fit, his natural perception of your gift enables him to understand it. And you use his understanding on your behalf, his meaning Jesus, the Holy Spirit. It's impossible to convince you of the reality of what has clearly been accomplished through your willingness while you believe that you must understand it, or else it's not real. So this is simply saying that you don't need to understand it, that there is a part of you that you're not familiar with or aware of that does understand it, and that is how miracles can work through you, and that miracles are really when your mind becomes joined with another one's mind. And so the Course in Miracles is really teaching us, reminding us, revealing to us the deeper wisdom around the golden rule, which is to do unto others as you would have them do unto you, treat your brothers and sisters as you would want to be treated. All right, so paragraph 5. How can faith in reality be yours while you're bent on making it unreal? And are you really safer in maintaining the reality of illusions than you would be in joyously accepting truth for what it is and giving thanks for it? Honor the truth that has been given you and be glad you do not understand it. Miracles are natural to the one who speaks for God, for his task is to translate the miracle into the knowledge which it represents and which is hidden to you. Let his understanding of the miracle be enough for you, and do not turn away from all the witnesses that he has given you to his reality. Paragraph 6. No evidence will convince you of the truth of what you do not want. Yet your relationship with him is real. Regard this not with fear, but with rejoicing. The one you called upon is with you. Bid him welcome and honor the witnesses who bring you the glad tidings he has come. It's true, just as you fear, that to acknowledge him is to deny all that you think you know. But what you think you know was never true. What gain is there to you in clinging to it and denying the evidence for truth? For you've come too near to truth to renounce it now, and you will yield to its compelling attraction. You can delay this now, but only a little while. The host of God has called to you, and you have heard. Never again will you be wholly willing not to listen. Paragraph 7. This is a year of joy, in which your listening will increase and peace will grow with its increase. The power of holiness and the weakness of attack are both being brought into your awareness. And this has been accomplished in a mind firmly convinced that holiness is weakness and attack is power. Should not this be a sufficient miracle to teach you that your teacher is not of you? But remember also that whenever you listen to his interpretation, the results have brought you joy. Would you prefer the result of your interpretation, considering honestly what they have been? God wills you better. Could you not look with greater clarity on whom God loves with perfect love? When the word holiness is used, holiness comes from the realization of unconditional love, the truth of unconditional love, which brings about peace. To remember that we are one with the Creator, that we are still existing, that what we are exists in the mind of the Creator. And so anything that prevents us from seeing that truth, that enhances or that affirms the false belief in separation, is attack. It is resistance. Resistance is attack. And so therefore weakness. But what this is saying here is that the ego, however, will defend separation, because the ego only exists through the device of separation, and so will defend against the truth, defend and attack holiness. This is the paradox of our existence. And this is what the Course in Miracles is striving to bring clarity around, to undo the error in this thinking. All right, so paragraph 8. Do not interpret against God's love, for you have many witnesses that speak of it so clearly that only the blind and deaf could fail to see and hear them. This year determine not to deny what has been given you by God. Awake and share it, for that is the only reason he has called to you. His voice has spoken clearly, and yet you have so little faith in what you heard because you have preferred to place still greater faith in the disaster you have made. His voice has spoken clearly, and yet you have so little faith in what you heard because you have preferred to place still greater faith in the disaster you have made. Today, let us resolve together to accept the joyful tidings that disaster is not real and that reality is not disaster. Reality is safe and sure and wholly kind to everyone and everything. There is no greater love than to accept this and be glad. For love asks only that you be happy and will give you everything that makes for happiness. Paragraph 9. You have never given any problem to the Holy Spirit he has not solved for you, nor will you ever do so. You've never tried to solve anything yourself and been successful. Is it not time you brought these facts together and made sense of them? This is the year for the application of the ideas that have been given you. For the ideas are mighty forces to be used and not held idly by. They have already proved their power sufficiently for you to place your faith in them and not in their denial. This year, invest in truth and let it work in peace. Have faith in him who has faith in you. Think what you have really seen and heard and recognize it. Can you be alone with witnesses like these? Okay. So that's our text for today. I'd like to go back to what is reality. Okay, so the introduction to the text teaches us what reality is. This is a Course in Miracles. It's a required course. Only the time you take it is voluntary. Free will does not mean that you can establish the curriculum. It means only that you can elect what you want to take at a given time. The course does not aim at teaching the meaning of love, for that is beyond what can be taught. It does aim, however, at removing the blocks to the awareness of love's presence, which is your natural inheritance. The opposite of love is fear, but what is all-encompassing can have no opposite. This course can therefore be summed up very simply in this way: nothing real can be threatened, nothing unreal exists, and herein lies the peace of God. And so this in and of itself can be an inquiry where we can go exploring into the ingredients and that which makes up our worldly reality and ask, can this be threatened? And if it can be threatened, the body can be threatened, our thought systems, our concepts can be threatened, then what that's pointing to is that it's not truly true. It's not really real, that there's something more and that there's a part of us that exists beyond the body that is fueled by love, and that when we reach that realization, then the gift is peace, the gift is clarity, and then the result is living the golden rule and unity with God. So let's now go to lesson 1. Here we are in the workbook. So the workbook is the series of lessons. So let's just introduce you to the lessons. A theoretical foundation such as the text provides is necessary as a framework to make the exercises in this workbook meaningful. And so the text is what we read when we were looking at chapter 16 and reading for this year, the first day of this year. Yet it is doing the exercises that will make the goal of the course possible. An untrained mind can accomplish nothing. It is the purpose of this workbook to train your mind to think along the lines the text sets forth. The exercises are very simple. They do not require a great deal of time, and it does not matter where you do them. They need no preparation. The training period is 1 year. The exercises are numbered from 1 to 365. Do not undertake to do more than one set of exercises a day. The workbook is divided into 2 main sections, the first dealing with the undoing of the way you see now, and the second with the acquisition of true perception. With the exception of the review periods, each day's exercises are planned around one central idea, which is stated first. This is followed by a description of the specific procedures by which the idea of the day is to be applied. All right, so you can go ahead and read this on your own. Let me jump down to number 8. Some of the ideas the workbook presents you will find hard to believe, and others may seem to be quite startling. This doesn't matter. You're merely asked to apply the ideas as you are directed to do. You're not asked to judge them at all. You're asked only to use them. It's their use that will give them meaning to you and will show you that they are true. And lastly, remember only this: you need not believe the ideas, you need not accept them, you need not even welcome them. Some of them you may actively resist. None of this will matter or decrease their efficacy. But do not allow yourself to make exceptions in applying the ideas the workbook contains, and whatever your reactions to the ideas may be, use them. Nothing more than that is required. Okay, so now let's go to the first lesson. So just hit the home button. Then you see the anatomy of the book, and you can scroll down, and they're generously giving you the calendar daily lesson, which is lesson 1. We can click on the button to read it. You can also play it. Just to let you know, my practice for years and years was that I would do the lesson as part of my morning meditation routine. So I would take about 15 to 20 minutes to come to sit, practicing the Vipassana technique of observing the body part by part, so arranging the body in a proper meditative position and then exploring the body part by part. So about 20 minutes into my meditation, then I would play the lesson. And so I would use the audio button to then hear the narrator read the lesson to me. as I maintained my meditative position. Eyes closed, mind expanded, body active yet relaxed. And then I would do the lesson. If the lesson required for me to open my eyes and look around, then I would do that. And then I would continue once I had practiced the lesson for its requisite time. The first lessons are very short. You don't spend more than a minute on them, practice twice a day. The practice instructions do change and can be practiced throughout the day. However, for the morning meditation practice, I would listen to the narrator read the lesson, I would practice the lesson, and then I would return to my meditation and finish for the rest of it. And so usually my meditation at that time was as long as an hour and 15 minutes, sometimes longer, sometimes a little bit shorter. But I'm just painting the picture just so that you can understand it. I'm not saying that you need to do it this way. I'm just sharing how over the course of the years, this has been my routine. All right, so part one, lesson one.
Lesson 1. Nothing I see in this room, on this street, from this window, in this place, means anything. Now, look slowly around you and practice applying this idea very specifically to whatever you see. This table does not mean anything. This chair does not mean anything. This hand does not mean anything. This foot does not mean anything. This pen does not mean anything. Then look farther away from your immediate area and apply the idea to a wider range. That door does not mean anything. That body does not mean anything. That lamp does not mean anything. That sign does not mean anything. That shadow does not mean anything. Notice that these statements are not arranged in any order and make no allowance for differences in the kinds of things to which they are applied. That is the purpose of the exercise. The statement should merely be applied to anything you see. As you practice the idea for the day, use it totally indiscriminately. Do not attempt to apply it to everything you see, for these exercises should not become ritualistic. Only be sure that nothing you see is specifically excluded. One thing is like another as far as the application of the idea is concerned. Each of the first 3 lessons should not be done more than twice a day each, preferably morning and evening. Nor should they be attempted for more than a minute or so, unless that entails a sense of hurry. A comfortable sense of leisure is essential.
Okay, so you can listen to the narrator or you can just read through the lesson and then practice it at your own leisure as the descriptions provide. For the first 3 lessons, so for if you opt to do a lesson a day, then today's lesson, tomorrow's lesson, so today's Wednesday, tomorrow's Thursday, the following lesson is Friday, then the first 3 lessons should be done no more than twice a day each, preferably morning and evening for about a minute each. And just simply observe what happens inside as you practice these experiences. And when we go deeply into it, just living this lesson, living this lesson, understanding it or realizing the truth of it deeply would be living an enlightened life. All right, so before we finish up, I'd like to go back to what is miracles. So seeing as this text, this work is called A Course in Miracles, let's first look at this section. So we're in chapter 1, the meaning of miracles. This outlines the principles of miracles. And it's quite lengthy. We have 50, yeah. So there are 50 principles of miracles. All right, so let's just read through a few of them together. Number one, there is no order of difficulty in miracles. One is not harder or bigger than another. They're all the same. All expressions of love are maximal. And so what it's revealing here is that miracles are expressions of love. Number two, miracles as such do not matter. The only thing that matters is their source, which is far beyond evaluation. Number three, miracles occur naturally as expressions of love. The real miracle is the love that inspires them. In this sense, everything that comes from love is a miracle. Number four, all miracles mean life, and God is the giver of life. His voice will direct you very specifically. You'll be told all you need to know. Number five, miracles are habits and should be involuntary. They should not be under conscious control. Consciously selected miracles can be misguided. Number six, miracles are natural. When they do not occur, something has gone wrong. Number seven, miracles are everyone's right, but purification is necessary first. Number eight, miracles are healing because they supply a lack. They're performed by those who temporarily have more for those who temporarily have less. And so what this one is pointing to is that those who have temporarily less are under the impression, believe that they have less love in that moment. But the illusion of that is revealed because love is never stingy. We're held by it all the time. We cannot be separate from it. We are it, actually. Only a thought system would have us believe otherwise and act accordingly. So, number nine, miracles are a kind of exchange. Like all expressions of love, which are always miraculous in the true sense, the exchange reverses the physical laws. They bring more love both to the giver and the receiver. And so this now speaks to how we can heal the sick and turn disasters into gifts. Number 10, the use of miracles as spectacles to induce belief is a misunderstanding of their purpose. 11, prayer is the medium of miracles. It is a means of communication of the created with the creator. Through prayer, love is received, and through miracles, love is expressed. Okay, so miracles are the expression of love, but prayer is a required ingredient. 12, miracles are thoughts. Thoughts can represent the lower or bodily level experience or the higher or spiritual level experience. One makes the physical and the other creates the spiritual. Okay. Okay, so let's finish here with that. So as I said, there are 50. So in the next video, I'll go over a next grouping, going over the miracles. We'll read another part of the text together, and then we will look at the next lesson. All right, I will be heading to Australia soon, but I will be continuing my online classes, meditation and natural healing self-help. They land at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and you can find the registration links on the elilacenter.org calendar if you want to join me from wherever you are, if the timing works. All right, so I'd love to hear your thoughts about this introduction to the Course in Miracles. And for me, I'm excited to start it up again. One of my dear friends had asked me if I was going to do something with the Course in Miracles this year. And I was a bit wishy-washy about it, but then I was inspired to do it. So I wanted to get this video to you before the day's end. All right. Happy New Year again, and I will see you soon.